Welcome. I'm Meredith, and this is the Oasis Spiritual Empowerment Tarot, and it's all about tarot and oracle and empowering you. And today we're going to do a deep dive into the Salis Spiritus Alchemical Oracle, and this is for Chelsea. Now this deck, the system, is by Reverend Pamela Dawn DeForest Hancock. I think you can buy just the deck, but it is offered in a package, so you get the book, the reading cloth, a really nice pouch, and of course the deck. So it's not a huge deck, but there's a lot. So, I'm certainly not going to read the book to you, but I want to give you enough information to help you understand the system. It's called an oracle, but in a lot of ways, to me, it's more like a tarot, only because there is a really defined structure and system. But it's not like any tarot deck. So I'm gonna try to be succinct, but I also want to give you a good idea of the system and the cards and how they work. So let's get right in. So kind of like the tarot, there are different suits. So there are 5 suits. So first we have the major Arcana. It's not like tarot though. So there are some similarities though. So we'll get into it. But so first we have the Alchemist, right? This is you, basically. Could be related to the Fool, but this is that that beginning. And I should say, so for the major arcana, basically they represent, could be specific people, could be parts of yourself, could be certain lessons or actions, right? So, all right, so we have the Alchemist. Then, kind of like the tarot, it's like a journey. So the Alchemist first travels to Hermes, Trismegistus, thrice Hermes. So Hermes is basically like the magician, right? So he has to do with intellect, logic, that rational thinking brain, and skill. Okay. Then we have Mary the Prophetess. So now she was a real famous alchemist, and she's kind of like Temperance. She's that balance, that moderation, and to really simplify it, those are kind of her messages. And then we have Baphomet. So Baphomet is kind of like part of judgment in a way. So with Baphomet, when Baphomet shows up, it's a signal that you're ready to kind of accept your path, right? It's time for reflection, consideration, initiation. And then we have Anima Mundi. So this is like the hermit, right? Recommending solitude to help strengthen that inner guidance. And then we have the hand of God, just like the wheel, like fate, right? With the idea that the control is not yours alone. You need, this is the time to go with the flow, to surrender, right? And this doesn't mean that you aren't, it's not like you give up and you don't do anything to, it's like, I think of fate like a riptide, right? So if you're in the ocean and you get caught in a riptide and it's pulling you out and you just keep trying to swim back to shore, all that's going to do is exhaust you. You're not going to win against that riptide, right? It's going to pull you out. You're going to go under. But if you kind of go with the flow, let it take you out a little bit and begin swimming in a different direction, you can break out of that riptide and then swim wherever you like, right? So to me, that's the message here. This is the time when this card appears to go with the flow a little bit, to surrender, not forever, but for this moment, this period of time. All right. So then, next we have the Catechists. So this is about balance, especially with your energy, with the chakras, right? It's merging the opposites. And to me, I see this as balancing all of your bodies, right? Because understand we have that physical body, the mental body, spiritual body, and the emotional body, and they all need to be balanced in and of themselves, and they need to be balanced with regard to each other too. Next, we have Aesotholite. So this card is kind of like the star, right? It's indicating, okay, there's still some hard work that needs to be done, but it's going to be successful. You're going in the right direction. So it's kind of like that, it's kind of cheering you on and giving you that encouragement. Next, we have the Emerald Tablet. So this is an indicator that you're ready to receive secret knowledge, and it's kind of like the other half of judgment. It indicates time for an awakening, a rebirth. Okay. Then we have the Auroboris. And as you might expect, this is an indicator, a reminder that the end is just the beginning. So, it's kind of letting you know that you've either just achieved something or you're about to achieve something really great, right? Really special, really powerful. And it's kind of like the World card, right? So there are some similarities. All right, so next, these are the elements. Now, in the book, she likens earth, air, fire, and water to the aces, right? So like Ace of Pentacles, Ace of Swords, Ace of Wands, Ace of Water. I wouldn't exactly say that, right? Because, with tarot, normally when you see an ace, you think of, maybe like that new beginning. But in this case, it's still connected, to well, obviously to the elements, but it's more kind of saying, hey, you need to pay attention to this area of your life. There's something going on here, right? So for Earth, it's the material stuff, right? Is your health going well, or your finances, right? There's something in that area that needs attending. And then with air, there's something in that mental space that needs to be dealt with. And, in all of these cases, it could be too much or too little, right? Fire. Now for fire, we're talking about that. It could be spiritual. It could be a passion of yours, right? You're going a little crazy with your passions. This card might come up. Maybe you're not following your passions. This card might come up. And then water, of course, is the emotional. But then we have more. So we have sulfur. Now, sulfur relates to the divine masculine. And when this card shows up, it's like that divine masculine is reaching out to you. It's got something to say. It's got something that you need to pay attention to. And then we have Mercury, and I should say sulfur is related to the sun. Mercury is related to the moon and the divine feminine. And so when Mercury comes up, that's an indicator that the divine feminine is reaching out. Okay. Then we have salt. Now, salt is related to strength. It's kind of letting you know, look, you're in a good place, right? But again, there's still further that needs to be. You need to go further, basically. All right. So then we have the archetypes. So these are essentially aspects of the divine, right? Yeah, so first we have Saturn. And Saturn relates to death. And also, generally it's a message about letting go of something, right? We have the sun, which relates to the sun, and all the tarot-y stuff, and that divine masculine energy. And for the moon, we have the divine feminine, and I would say that it's like the moon in the tarot, only to a point, because it's not so much about hidden things or things like that. It's more directly about intuition and things like that. So like if the moon came up, you might pay extra attention to your dreams or your gut feelings or something like that. Now Mars is the warrior. Usually he shows up to kind of help create a change that needs to happen. Maybe let you know that a battle's coming. You need to be prepared, or maybe maybe there's a change that either you've kind of begun or you need to begin. And then Mercury is the teacher. It's that Hermes, the Thoth. And again, it depending on how it comes up and everything, it could indicate that you need to find a teacher or listen to a teacher. It might also mean that you need to do some teaching. And then Jupiter is the emperor. Basically relating to like family, friends, things like that. And each of these, and I'll show you, they have a lot more detail than what I'm giving you. And Venus is that artist and lover, of course, right? Next, so those were the archetypes, and those are again like aspects of the divine. Now, this deck does use reversals, so if a card were to show up in reversed, it basically means there's a lack or an excess, or it's just something that really needs your attention. So it just kind of depends. All right, so next. So each of the archetypes have like an animal helper, messenger. So first, we have Saturn's crow. And again, he's kind of letting you know that you can expect Saturn's energy, right? And that could come in various ways, but you're looking at, and it's usually within about a week, right? So he's kind of letting you prepare when he shows up. The sun, and again, this is just a messenger from the sun letting you know to prepare for that energy. And it could be that you need to call on that energy, right? Or it could be that maybe something's out of balance and it needs to be attended to. And then we have the moon's owl. And again, all of these just relate back to the archetype, right? To the energy of the archetype. Mars' ram. Mercury's ibis. Jupiter's horse. And Venus's peacock. Okay. So then the next suit is the stages. So some of the stages are broken into two parts, some are just one. It basically depends on kind of how complicated and in depth the stage is, I guess I would say. So first, we have calcination. And I should say these are all stages of the alchemical process, right? So for calcination, this is that trial by fire, right? This is the first time the alchemist is experiencing that fire. Then we have dissolution. So this is when your identity is getting stripped away, right? Your persona is being stripped away. Then we have stage 3.1. So that's the first half of separation. This is a disassembling, right? It's kind of like a little death, kind of like the tower. Then we have stage 3.2. So that's the second half of separation. This is that integration, right? Creating the you that you choose, right? So here you're kind of getting rid of those bits that you don't need, and maybe some bits that you do, but only temporarily. Because then in this stage, you're kind of recreating yourself, right? With a in a very conscious way, right? In a guided way. So then we have conjunction. It's kind of what it sounds like, right? We have the male and female energies, the sun and the moon coming together, creating this perfect union, this balance, this conscious and unconscious minds uniting, logic and emotion coming together, right? All these dualities coming together. And so that was the first half of conjunction. The second half is essentially recognizing, okay, that first half is done. So now you're ready to meet your oversoul. You're in that more perfected place where you can experience this. Then we have the first half of fermentation. This is when you're basically turning toward death to start a new life. This is a time to withdraw, to create change, to cross that abyss, to die before you die, so that you can be born anew. And again, born in a way of conscious choosing. So now the second half of fermentation, that's the resurrection, right? You're coming back, but better, different. And then we have distillation. So this is that integration, that communion with the upper realms. And that's the first half. So then the second half, this is like a recirculation, a perfection of the energies, and still that integration taking place. So then we have coagulation. So this is the end of the transmutation process, but it also means that it's time to begin it again, right? It's signaling that an immense transformation has taken place, and you've completed something really great. But with every end, there's a new beginning, right? And this process kind of recycles itself. And then we have the great work. So at this point, you're unified now, right? All of those dualities, those energies. Now you can craft your own reality. You can achieve all your dreams. And the book goes into a great deal of envisioning, allowing your purpose to be the great purpose, the great work, by using this alchemical envisioning. So, I mean, those are the cards in a nutshell, a kind of long nutshell. But so next, I want to kind of show you the book, because so within the book, all right, first of all, there's a couple different ways that are recommended to work with these cards. So I'm going to tell you, if you wanted to, you could use this just as an oracle, right? Don't give any more thought, just use it for a card. You could do that. You would be missing out on a lot, I think, if that's how you chose to work with it, because there's so much more. But you could. And so each card has a significant write-up, right? So if you just wanted to look for a divinatory meaning, you could absolutely get that. But there's a lot more to it. So with each card, there's work that needs to be done, right? There are assignments. Often in the form of meditations, although not always. So basically in the book, it starts kind of describing what the card is, and then it kind of gives you ways to think about it, and then it gives you the assignment, right? So this is for the major arcana, and again, this is about kind of meeting with all of these different teachers, or gaining all of these different lessons. Okay. So then, when we go into the elements, it it again kind of describes, it gives you a sort of divinatory meaning, and again gives you questions to consider. Right? So there aren't like meditations with these, but there are things to think about and perhaps journal on. Right? So journaling is recommended throughout this process. Highly recommended. But yeah. So then we get into the archetypes. So before it even gets into the individual cards, it talks about how to perform this journeying process, right? It's like a shamanic process. So it gives you instructions on how to do it, and it gives you a link. Gives you a link to a shamanic drum journey that you can kind of pair with the meditation. Then, once you get into the cards, so it'll tie in, I don't know how well it's going to show up, but it'll tie in like the day of the week, the alchemical stage, right? So for Saturn, it's calcination. It gives you the archetype. Saturn is death. The element, herbs, animals, stones, scents, body parts, bodily functions, mental functions, malfunctions of the mind and body, virtues, vices, principles. So if Saturn comes up, right, depending on how it appears and how it feels, you may be looking at, okay, if say the Harbinger of Saturn comes up, right? So maybe within the next week, I have this Saturn energy. So is it going to be, am I going to feel sad maybe? Am I going to be more irritable? Am I going to try to isolate myself? Or, right, there are virtues. So maybe these are things that I just need to kind of focus on acceptance, focus on setting boundaries and keeping them. Maybe being a little more self-disciplined. So there are different ways that you can read it when it comes up, but it talks a bit about the card and the symbol and everything, but then it does tell you when the card appears in your reading, it's because you're in a period of transition. Your life is significantly changing, and it's time to let things go, right? Because it's death, you gotta let it go. Death is not something that should be feared, but rather something embraced as a necessary part of change. If the card is reversed or appears in a spread or in a place of contention, you may be fighting change or struggling with depression. This behavior will do you no good and only slow your process. Seek help. Okay. Then it gives you 3 different exercises you can do, 3 different meditations. So understand, this is, to get the most out of this, you have to do the work, right? It's not going to do it for you. But it's an enjoyable process. It's not, so yeah. And then similar right up with the sun. And again, we have 3 different exercises or meditations. And the moon, and so on. So for each of these, now we get to the Harbingers. So, and again, remember, these are like the messengers. So for these, again, when we're talking about Saturn, we have Saturn's crow. Lists the bodily functions, mental functions, malfunctions, virtues, vices, and principles. So for Saturn, we have inhibition and concentration. So, and then it says, when this card appears in your reading, Saturn's crow has soared into your life to alert you that in the next week or so, you will be dealing with this archetype's energy. So be on the lookout for incidents that could cause depression or an illness that is caused by your need for control. You may also want to exercise your ability to maintain boundaries. There's a likelihood you will also need to use your wisdom and perseverance in the upcoming situation. Although the events may be rough, it's important to not be cruel or irritable, inflexible or untrusting. Saturn is a rough taskmaster, but once you overcome what's in store, you'll be all the wiser and more in control of your life. So learning how to be accepting, disciplined, sincere, and wise are some of the most important lessons that you will acquire in this lifetime. So with this knowledge in hand, you can spot this occasion when it occurs and act appropriately. Be on the lookout and be prepared with the appropriate virtues. This too shall pass. Take it as an opportunity for growth, and it will be much easier to handle. So, each of the Harbingers have a similar style of write-up. Then we get into the stages. So it gives you an explanation of the stage, kind of describing it. It also talks about when it appears in your reading, what might be required, what it might mean. And so for the first one, for calcination, if you seek to move forward in your life, this card will give you the tools to do so. First, meditate on the image of the card for at least 5 minutes. And can I say, I wish these were larger. I mean, they work, but it would be great if they were huge. Yeah, so each one of the art pieces have been patterned, Then when you're ready, choose one of the following journey prompts and create the change. So for calcination, you have, you have to go with what you feel, right? What's your issue in this area? Is it judgment or blame? Is it fear? Is it obsession with worldly possessions? So to give you an example, if say it's judgment or blame. So first you have a journal prompt. Are you dealing with severe issues of judgment or blame? Does either of these issues prevent you from living your life in happiness? If so, take at least 10 minutes to just write a list of all the judgments or areas of blame that hinder you. All right, so that's just the first, but then you have the journey. So in previous pages it talks about that shamanic journey and how to do it. So in this case, you basically refer back to that process, and then you're going to meet with Saturn, right? Because Saturn rules calcination. Tell him of the judgment or blame that holds you back, and allow him to place you in a metaphysical furnace like the image on the card, where you feel those issues being burned away from your psyche. And when you've completed this task, thank him for his assistance and come back to regular reality. And when you return, write down what happened on the journey. It could take several rounds of this work to fully obliterate these issues. Trust, be patient, and make any changes that Saturn requests of you. So each stage basically is set up the same way. So it gives you work to do, right? So we have journaling exercises, we have the journey, and there are multiple issues for each one. So so for disillusion, we have persona, not going with the flow. I guess there's only 2. I thought there were 3 for each, but either way, you have choices. And it's just going to really depend on what you feel you need. Right? And so it continues. So you have a journal exercise, you have a journey exercise. So then so there are different ways to work with this deck. So one of the primary recommended ways is just a card a day, right? What's that thing? This I gotta get a drink. What's that thing that you need to focus on today, right? So, and that's how I started working with the deck. Was just that one card a day. Taking the meaning, taking the exercise, doing it. But then, now there are different spreads. There's like this new moon spread, elemental spread. I probably tried them once or twice. Celtic cross, I mean, it's fine. And look, I use it all the time in readings. Don't get me wrong. But for this, the spread that I use the most, other than, I mean, I do use the daily, but as far as like a larger spread, this I think is a fabulous spread. And if you get, I'm not trying to sell anything, but if you get the reading cloth anyway, it has the layout for this spread, right? So essentially, I mean, we're not going to do like a real reading, but just to give you an idea, right? So first you have you, right? That's you right now in this moment. Your current state of being. Then we have Earth. So go there, and that represents, the physical stuff, money, health, things like that. Then, and you can't really see it because it's off the screen, but down here we have air. So just kind of bump them up. And that, of course, is mental influences. And then again, it's down there, but then we have water. And of course that's your emotional influences. Then we have fire. And fire's the spiritual influences or those passions, the stuff that you're passionate about, right? Then we have sulfur. Sulfur is that divine masculine. What is he trying to tell you? What's that message from the masculine side of the source of the divine? Could be a task, something to keep in mind, something to work on. And then of course we have Mercury for the divine feminine, and same idea. What is that message? What is the divine feminine trying to tell you? Or what does she want you to do? And then we have salt. So salt is basically the end result. This is the lesson or the action. And basically, this is kind of where you'll end up. So, and I know I'm not doing a reading because it's just too much, but just to give you an idea, so we're not counting reversals, and I think they're all reversed because I had them upside down, but that's okay. But just to give you a feel for how it might be, because I think this is a great, I think it's a great system. So, you want to look at, okay, where am I right now? So right now we have that Harbinger kind of saying, hey, this moon energy is coming up. So I'm in a place where I need to get ready to work with this. And of course, that's that intuition stuff, right? So then we have Earth, and we have that Sun's lion. We have water, right, for that separation. So basically the idea. Um, what so this is something that, so this is Earth. So for the sun's lion, right? The sun's influence is affecting your body, your material stuff. Now, the sun is success and great stuff, but maybe it can go to excess, right? So maybe consider, am I spending a little too much money? Am I maybe I'm just being a little too prideful, too boastful about my money or my things. Whatever it is. Maybe you're just kind of overdoing it physically, right? So there are different things, and those are questions only you can answer because you know the answers, right? So so this is not a deck that I use to read for other people because, I mean, you could. I'm not going to say you can't. You could, but it would require a lot of back and forth. I mean, I do spiritual life coaching and potentially I could kind of guide someone through this process, but they're still doing all the work, which I guess is true in a lot of ways, but they would do it more directly. I will say, though, that the meditations in here are fabulous for hypnosis. I mean, because hypnosis is just going to take you to that deeper level. So I have actually modified some of them to use with my clients because they're fabulous. But if you are willing to put in the time and do the focus, you don't need hypnosis. Hypnosis is just a little faster, a little more powerful to get you there, but you can get there on your own too. So to try to wrap up, this is going on a really long time. I think that this is a fabulous deck for self-work. The only thing about this deck is that it does require that self-work, right? It requires you to do the work. And maybe that sounds silly, I'm saying it, but there's that old adage, like, the people who most need self-help books will never read them or something. And I don't know, they did a study, like, at some point about self-help books, and people buy them, and they kind of sit on the bookshelf, and they never do anything with them. And I'm not saying everybody, obviously not, but there are some people who do that. This deck is going to give you what you put into it. So if you're willing to do the work, and again, it's enjoyable work, and even though there's a lot packed in here, I mean, the book is only, and it gives you journaling pages, which I don't like to write in books. I just write in notebooks. But so it gives you like 97 pages. It's not a huge book in terms of books. You know what I'm saying? So, but again, when you get, like, say you get all the way through, right? And, you're doing your daily pick, and you get through all the stages, and you get through and you get the great work, well, then it's time to begin again. And the thing is, when you go through the stages, now, I should say this too. So, I'm sorry. I really am trying to wrap this up, but I want to make sure this is kind of clear. So, where's the beginning of the stages? So, here's the thing. When you right? So we basically have 7 stages, and probably about half of them, if not more, have 2 stages, within. Here's the thing. Say you're doing your daily draw, and they're not going to necessarily come in order. They probably won't be in order. But so say you pick 4.2, then you pick 3.1, and then you pick 4.2 again, right? So there are 2 ways you can kind of deal with that. It's not something that should be ignored. So this is kind of a reminder. When you get it again, it's reminding you of the lessons that you learned when you first got that card. Now, and I think that's as far as Reverend, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm sorry. Reverend Hancock, I think that's as far as she goes with the book, but this may just be the way I see it, or maybe it's in the book. I don't remember. But to me, there is some flying bug, it's really irking me. When I get a card for a second time, especially because there can be multiple issues, right? I'm not going to necessarily think, oh, I just need to remember the lessons, because maybe there's that second lesson that I haven't done. Or maybe, like with fear, okay, for this one, if I get this card, say I get it here, say I get it and I do this, right? Then it comes up again and I do the fear. Then it comes up again, then I would have to really consider, like, have I addressed everything that's here? And maybe you have. And if so, then I would absolutely take it as a reminder. But if you haven't, you still need that work to do. So, but once you get through like a complete cycle, which again is going to be out of order, but once you get through it, then you begin again. And there's a refinement to the process. There's a difference when you go through it again. It's going to feel different. You're going to get different results. Yeah. So this isn't a one and done. You know what I mean? But I think this is invaluable, and I think it's very, very smart. It's very closely tied in with some classical magical practices. I think it's an amazing deck. And if you're willing to put forth the time and the energy, and again, it's not like you don't have to spend hours, right? You can spend 10, 15 minutes a day, and you can use that time too as that kind of self-care time, because really a lot of this is basically self-care too, right? You're cleaning out that closet and building yourself up. So now whether you are doing it to undertake a magical working, whether you're doing it to just feel better, whether you're doing it as a very spiritual tool to commune with the divine, whatever your motivation is, you can get all of those things from this. So, and I swear I'm not related to any of these people, and I have nothing to do with it. It's just, it really is a very powerful deck and system, and I really recommend it. I really do. So, with that said, please like, share, and subscribe. Every single like, share, and subscribe counts, and you count. You count most of all. And if I forgot to say, and I hope I didn't, this was for Chelsea. So, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and be wonderful to yourself, because you deserve it. You deserve the best, only the best, all the best. And that is my wish for you.